Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about another controversial topic. Foreign aid, is it a blessing or a curse? So let's dive deep into it. Now, before we dive deep into it, you have to understand certain things are not as black and white as technological things. Basically, I can technologically say series hybrid is the best, but I can't say the same thing about either tariffs or this because, again, thankfully, many of my audience are super amazing. They actually understood what I was trying to talk about in the tariff videos. It's a tool. Use it wisely, it helps you. Use it poorly, it destroys you. Same goes here. So let's dive deep into it. So during tough times, now tough times are generally created by two factors. Either they are man-made or they are natural. So generally disaster would be classified as natural. So you could have hurricane, tsunami, earthquakes, these sort of things would be classified as a disaster. Another things would be man-made, like let's say your government was high and they destroyed the economy. It will go into debt crisis or war or things of that nature. So generally you have two categories of tough times. In this sort of scenario, world comes together, or sometimes a larger nation or your direct neighbor comes in and they can either bail you out. Bail you out is generally used if you have financial trouble, or help you if you are dealing with a natural disaster. So these two words could be used interchangeably when we are talking about aids. So whenever possible, we can help with money or resources or manpower, or sometimes even a bit less things like guarantee. For example, a small nation goes through some tough time and then it's like, this nation is getting like, what if I do Wabayan? And they can ask for world help or, UN security forces and things of that nature to provide guarantee also. So that will not go, it will not be very obvious that it is coming under aid, but it is an aid. So these are the toolkits that we have in order to provide aid to people who are dealing with some tough time. Now, there are many global funds that do it. And again, generally, if it's your immediate neighbor, for example, something bad happens in Canada, US is supposed to directly help it, not go through funds. Something directly happens in Nepal, Bhutan, India is supposed to like, I got you fam. It cannot go through the pipeline, so to say. But there are pipelines for far off regions. So, for example, there are funds where everybody chips in. Yes, almost 200 countries, almost all of them chips in little bit by little bit, generally based on GDP. But everybody chips in and they withdraw from it whenever tough times are called upon. So one of the popular one you may have heard is the International Monetary Fund. It's almost like a world insurance policy, so to say. And then you have Central Emergency Response Fund. This is generally created by World Bank, so to say, for just in case of emergency, especially out of hand natural disaster, they will be called upon. And then you have a World Food Program, because again, a world generally has more than enough food. It's just that we don't have enough money to directly move and be like, okay, tada, we got it. Because you have to understand, every nation inherently has the ability to take care of its population. If it did not, the country would not exist. So country can take care of it. It's just not the rush is the problematic part. So for example, every human goes through hospital one time or the other. Then why pandemic is so bad? Everybody goes at one time. So that's the whole thing. So disaster or tough time can increase the loading on a system so much that it cannot manage it. At that point in time, you do need assistance. It's not country is weak or all that. Every country, including USA, has an upper limit where even if they have the money, they may not have the required resources. They could literally run, hey, this fire is really bad. We are literally running out of firefighters. You could have a scenario like that. So fundamentally, every country knows this, understands this. That's why everybody chips in. Of course, you may say like, we are chipping in, but everybody chipping in according to their ability. You're not going to go to Pakistan and ask like, same money as you want to ask from USA. So there is a reasonable understanding there, but everybody puts into it, and it's almost like a backup emergency insurance policy for country itself, so to say. So this is what we are talking about whenever we are talking about aid. So either it could be a party system where like, a lot of people are coming together and then you giving aid. It could be direct aid assistance. So this is what we are talking about. Now, one very common thread that you will see is like, why should we care? Right? And again, especially if your country itself is going through hell, it's very easy to understand this statement. There is nothing wrong with it. And I do not blame people who were never explained this, why the heck we do it in the first place. It's just like, we are doing this. It's like, why? Nobody's taught it. It's not even taught in schools. So you have to understand, it's an understanding of a core principle that we have learned through age of empire, so to say, is that there is a mutual benefit and security benefits in that. That's why we do it. We are not stupid. There is a genuine benefit of security and all that. And all countries are tied together. This part is hard to understand unless you understand how global trading works. For example, India is a very large producer of grains. We good. We got this. We do not have to worry about food. That's how we feed more than 1 billion people. We good. Now here's the deal. Who are other providers? Russia and Ukraine and India. These are big bread baskets, so to say. Now, this bread basket is a one collective asset that world withdraws from. For example, countries that are running in deficit, let's say China, let's say African nations. So they will be draining from this and we will be feeding it. Now, cool, awesome. That's how things work. Everybody is cool. But assume a scenario, let's say Russia, Ukraine goes boom, boom on each other. Output of both of them will goes down drastically. Now, here's the deal. India is producing exactly as much, but right now, because of the supply going down, the price has gone up, meaning Indian sellers are now stuck in a scenario. It's like, do I sell this at same price into the local market, as in the India itself, or I sell it to global market and increase my profit? And you can understand why Indian food became expensive the moment Russia-Ukraine war started. So even though we had more than ever, it's just that unforeseen competition happened that, again, people who are dealing in the government, especially who are non-corrupt bureaucrats, they knew about this. That's their job. That's what they deal with. They know about this. And again, some tariffs have to be introduced emergency, so we do not increase price too much. But again, you do not want to like just go whole ham, because again, we have to give some freedom. You cannot just like, I decide, I am like Xi Jinping or something like that. Like, you have to have certain flexibility. So fundamentally, everything is tied together. That was a very easy example. Even though it's physically, geographically so far away, but your food is affected. I cannot bring it more personal than that. So trade-wise, treaty-wise, there are many countries who have treaties that are very serious and have to be respected, because like, okay, I don't respect it. It generally follows with a very brutal consequences. Trust me, we have learned it the long way. Borders. Yeah, it's a really spicy topic. And then we have diseases. For example, you may be like, okay, why does country should invest so much money and like, eradicate polio planet-wide? Because here's the deal. You may be like, okay, what if I inoculate everybody in my country? Cool, awesome. But here's the deal. If you do not eradicate the disease, let's say polio could mutate out of hand. Basically, you have this bubble. They are safe inside the bubble, but the bubble is not covering the planet. So a lot of people, let's say million, billion, billions of people are getting affected by it. They're surviving, they're doing their best, but disease keeps mutating, keep mutating, and wabaya, it can jump through your inoculation, and then you have no tools to stop it. So trust me, we have learned it the hard way that diseases must be eradicated. You will not apply your politics, you will not apply your borders. If you have a disease that is bad enough, shut up, solve this. We have learned it. Trust me, it's one of those things that it's like, it's better to just like, even if you're like, hey, we have people who are struggling here, trust me, it's more of an insurance policy that you have a tomorrow, rather than like everything is fine and randomly, why everybody went poof. So it's one of those things. And migrant influx is far more expensive. You may like, for example, let's say Bangladesh and Myanmar, they are sharing a border, and Myanmar goes boom, boom, boom on Rohingya Muslims, so to say, Uyghur Muslims, so to say. And Bangladesh does not like, hey, let's calm down, let's interfere, let's apply some brakes, let's handle this situation so it does not get out of hand. What happens? All of them floods to the nearest border, which was Bangladesh, and voila, the money they would have spent in trying to quell the problem would be now outweighed by the migration problem. Now everybody is like, what if I seal the border? It sounds easy to say. It's very expensive to do. It's ludicrously expensive to do. And another fact is that it's very easy to say that I'm gonna poof anybody who's trying to cross the border. Unless you have landmines, it's not doable. Like, you cannot expect a sane soldier to poof someone who is not carrying a firearm. And not to mention, it also incites unrelenting violence. And we have learned it the hard way. It never goes well. So, and again, if you ever wondered why certain countries have way too many mines, yeah, that's the only way you can keep this sanity. So it's like it's a no-go zone. So fundamentally, every country have learned it the hard way that migration influx is so bad that it's like cheaper to try to solve the situation rather than just like, okay, let them deal with it. And you cannot just like, oh, I have a border, I'm gonna poof all of them. Again, generally they will try to circumvent it, do their best. And again, if 1 million people are trying to go through, even if you poof 90% of them, 10% would be more than enough. And if they have blood vengeance, God help you. So another aspect is stable nations have less radical hatred. So if a country is safe and if country goes through a tough time and people help them out, the likelihood of them going, we're gonna boom you out of existence, goes down drastically. And trust me, this is one thing that is the most absolute truth ever said by a CIA agent, is that the only reason world is intact is simply because terrorists are down. And yes, I do mean that, not as a joke, not as a like a lol. No, they're down. If they ever found an engineer who really hates your country, you're dead. Let that be very clear. You're dead. So, and they do not need any illegal stuff. Nothing. They do not even need that. So, flat out, your world is running on like a knife's edge. Creating enemy is not a wise decision. We have learned it the hard way. We have World War I and World War II to teach us that. You should not create unnecessary enemy. Any money that you are spending there would be dwarfed by the penalty of that. And again, whole history is there. Another aspect is debt trap. For example, this applies to the countries that are closest to you. For example, India, right? So we have Sri Lanka. Now Sri Lanka's government goes lol with the money and country goes into absolute disaster. Not even joking, ironic level of disaster. How the heck that's even possible kind of disaster? It goes kaboom. Now, at that point in time, India is like, I don't care. We have our own problem. Then China is like, hey, Sri Lanka, my man, you seem to be having some trouble. Here's some money to save you. I was like, okay, cool, money, awesome. What's the security for it? Nothing much. Just your naval base. Yeah, that's a cool naval base you got there. What if we hand it over? Like, what if you hand it over and I take it over? Now India has a Chinese naval base that is minutes away. And the amount of money India has to spend to safeguard against that threat, yeah, that's like China has spent $1 million, we have to spend $10 billion to safeguard against it. So fundamentally, we have learned it the hard way that debt trap could lead the nation into a position pocket. And again, if you ever wondered why the heck America went into this Vietnam War unnecessarily, that was the thinking of that. Again, did not pan out as expected, but again, that was the thinking behind it, is that if you do not apply brakes, things can get out of hand. Again, let that be very clear. It's not guaranteed that it will happen, but some scenarios is black and white, like having a Chinese spy vessel literally next to India. It's like, bro, I can see it. And yes, that did happen. So fundamentally, you lose security. At that point in time, yeah, you would be like, it would have been cheaper. So that's why we do it. That's why nobody just goes, what if we poof Ukraine? What if we just poof, Syria and all that? We have learned it the hard way. It never goes well. It's much better to solve it rather than to just poof it. And poofing it generally does not work, and you do create hatred. And trust me, if ever one engineer gets really frustrated in your country, God help you. And I'm an atheist who is saying that. So this is why we do it. So what exactly is the problem? If there is a good reason to do it, and if we are actually doing it and we have so many funds to doing it, what exactly is the problem? Well, we generally give money and receive money. Even India, in the early years of our independence, we were in tough spot. Let that be very clear. We were in tough spot. Right now, we are in a stable position where we are taking care of things. We are helping our neighbors out. Again, Sri Lanka and Nepal and Bhutan, we are helping things out. Things are good. We are stable. Our economy is growing. Things are good. But again, it was not always like that. And almost all countries like that. Even European countries, look into them. What happened to after World War II? So trust me, every country is used to giving money and taking money. That's a normal thing. It happens. It's like, going to hospital once in a while. It's a normal thing. However, payment is super easy to track. Every country can tell you exactly how much money they tax their citizenry to give you, or how much money printing they did for inflationary reason to, pay back the debts, or security funding and all that. Everybody can tell you. It's just that when it comes to receiving money, people are like, we received money? What the heck? We received money. Like, what does that mean? Now, there lies the core problem. The amount of money that is just lost, like poofed, like billions of dollars is sent from nations like USA to Africa, sometimes to exact one nation, and they're like, sir, what happened to that money? Oh, we have been sending, like, over the course of 5 years, we have been sending billions of dollars. Okay, so what happened to that? Oh, 2 billion was, payment charges. Not even joking anymore. So fundamentally, the amount of money is huge and the amount of money lost is almost the same amount. That's the problem, and it creates a very serious, huge recurring cost, meaning you will be like, okay, what if I pay to stabilize Pakistan? You're like, okay, cool, it's a good idea, stable idea, let's do it. You do it, and Pakistan is still not stable. You do it again. Again, Pakistan is still not stable. You do it 21 times, and you're like, what the hell is happening? And again, that's the how many times they took out loan from International Monetary Fund. So what the hell is happening? Everybody is giving money. One time, okay, oops, bad things. 2 times, 3 times, 21 times. So it becomes a recurring cost. And again, if you look into how much money everybody is dumping into African nations, you'll be like, dude, they should be rich by now. It's not a little, like, to give you context, they're like, AIDS medication is consuming $1 billion and all that much money. To give you a context, if you give that much money to Indian pharmaceutical industry, do not even talk to government, just give it to the pharmaceutical sector, will flood the planet with AIDS medication. Like, you will never even have to worry about AIDS medication. We're like, bro, we got this, we good. We good. And it's not even a loan that you're going to get anything back. You're just giving the money. It's just like, and then you have to keep doing it. It's like, that's not how things are supposed to work. You're supposed to give it, get them through the rough time, and then like, hey, you good? You good? Now pay back. But it's like, you good? Not good. Okay, more. You're not good? You're more. And it's like, it's been going on from, well, since forever. So fundamentally, this becomes a recurring cost. That's the problem. Everybody had a good idea. Everybody has a good history lesson that why should we do it? We are doing it. It's just that it's not solving. That becomes the problem. That's why Trump is like, okay, let's freeze it. It's like, you cannot just keep expecting to dump money after money after money after money. And it's like, nothing is stabilizing. At that point, you have to like look into it. It's like, bro, I tried. You know, if it becomes a black hole, I'm sorry. At that point in time, yeah, it would be better to reinforce the secondary damage. You know, it's like, it's gonna go splat. What is the splash damage? Seal around that. You can't compensate for everything. So that's the problem. So why exactly did that happen? Unfortunately, corruption. So most places, let that be very clear, most places on this planet has something to offer, one way or the another, be it Sri Lanka, be it Nepal, be it Bhutan, be it all these countries. Almost all of them have something to offer. And many countries, they have even something greater to offer, that is people itself. Like, you have to understand, you may think resources are resources. No, resources are nothing. Resources are like, there are resources. What does that mean? Nothing. Unless you have people extracting that resource and converting that resource into something useful, only then it's valuable. So resource to value happens through people. That's why China became such a big deal, because China, while they have their own issues, they did not have similar level of corruption as, let's say, South Africa. So even though South Africa had same amount of rare earth mineral, same amount of access to sea borders, actually better access to that, they did not become into the world factory. China did. So, and again, what was the biggest reason for that? Large population. China literally went from 1-child policy of stupidity to 3-child policy. That's their current policy in 2023. So let that be very clear. People are the largest resource you have. So if you have people and you have resource, you should not have an issue. Again, you can have influx issue, right? Like a big chunk. You could have that. But you should not be like, okay, we are forever poor. If you are in that scenario, something bad has happened. And generally, corruption. And unfortunately, corruption happens on both ends. Meaning, let's say some countries like, what if I give money here? You're like, cool, awesome, here's the money. And somebody in your government is like, what if we convert this money to some random stuff and then just like obscure it? Just like, blah, gone, money gone. $1 billion lost in transaction. Not even joking. Just lol. And it's like, what the hell happened? I gave you $50 billion. Why they are still stuck? It's like, sir, lost, gone. That corruption is on one end. Second end, they got the money and they're like, oh, they just ate the money. Like, that's what happened. Like people have hard time to understand how much corruption is there. Like, as an Indian, we have hard time understanding. India has a lot of corruption unless we start to study the history of South Africa, and then we are like, yeah, bro, we good. We do not have corruption. South Africa, like, they have written reports. It's like, bro, your electricity is good, your things are good, but you have to scale it. If you do not scale it, this exact year, you're going to run out of power, and then you're going to have rolling blackouts. That was published documentation. Like, they wrote it out, they published it, they did not fix it, they did not fix the coal cartel, and poof, the whole country spiral backwards into economic recession, and things go out of hand way too quickly. And they cannot even use solar to fix it, because again, government is like, no, you cannot do it, because again, corruption. I'm not even joking. That's what literally they built so much solar that, again, during surplus production, they were like, okay, what if we feed it back to the grid? And they're like, no, you have to destroy the panel, because again, you are destabilizing. They were not destabilizing, they were just pissing people off. It's like, bro, if people get the idea, it's like, solar panel is so cheap, how the coal plants will make money? So You get the point. Like it's tragic. There is no other word to describe it other than just raw tragic. And again, you cannot blame the Western people and all that. Again, they are not gods. If you are willing to sell your own soul, your own family, your own kin for some money, you are at fault. Any Tom, Dick and Harry can buy it from you. So fundamentally, corruption on both ends. And penalty, it becomes a never-ending poverty trap. Like this happened in Sri Lanka. How the heck that happened? They were like good, they were loaded, they had good tourism, they had good stuff, good production. But like mismanagement was so bad. It was like, how the heck that happened? So fundamentally, and only few people become rich. Like Hezil, that's the American problem. It's like, hey, why we are giving so much money away that we cannot even take care of veterans? That's the frustrating part. People are angry. Even though we gave the money, that problem is not solved. And somehow the top 1% are becoming ludicrously rich. We are becoming poor. And the people who are trying to help, they are fundamentally stuck in the poverty loop. So this creates an issue where only few percent people get rich and everybody else suffers inflation and debt. So that's the corruption aspect of it. 21 times, let that be clear. Imagine giving someone 20 loans. You will be like, dude, I will not give you a loan after 3 or 4 times, because again, actually that would have saved them. If they would have gone through the hell that India went through when we had to first time actually take out the loan, we fixed ourselves. It's the same thing with Israel. Israel was also in tough spot. When nobody helped them out, they had to fix themselves, and they're like, we got you. So every country has a similar thing. It's like you go through hell, you come out better. The countries that are like, no, here's money, they keep getting stuck in there. And again, corruption, generally internal corruption is the reason. No country is poor here. And no country, being exploited. It's like Indians are saying that is like, we are being exploited by Western world. It's like, yeah, they are paying us in dollar, which we have to pay to OPEC in order to get oil. Without oil, we do not have food. It's like, and everybody is things like that in a job, where it's like, we should get more. If you run a business, you're like, I'm paying way too much. You're doing a job, you're like, I'm getting paid too little. Everybody thinks like that. So it's the corruption that makes things out of hand and makes it a never-ending problem. So what's the solution here? Thankfully, technology does provide a solution, and things could be looking upwards, things could be getting better. So first true solution is employee direct fund transfer. For example, something bad happens, you're like, okay, this many people are affected, we're gonna give this amount of funding, divide that by the people and directly transfer that. Now, how would you physically do it? There are two tools. Basically mobile transfer. Thankfully, Africa is getting onto this track, and every Tom, Dick and Harry can directly receive money into their bank account directly. And in India, we have even better technology known as UPI. Now, UPI is also, because again, it's directly funded by Indian government, the backend is maintained by them, there is no charges on that. Meaning, if I transfer 10 rupees to you, 10 rupees go to you. There is no transition fees and all that. So, and again, India is working with other nations also to make it more universal, so to say. So, we are working with Nepal, Bhutan, Malaysia, Singapore, Oman, UAE, France, UK. We are working with all of them. And I'm like, we should really start to talk with Sri Lanka also. Now, what's the benefit? Let's say something bad happens. Let's say a bad earthquake happens in Nepal. And Indian government is like, okay, we're going to give you. But we only thing we do is like, hey, what's your currency? Whatever the currency, it's a Nepalese rupee. We convert it, directly transfer it. There is no middleman and then other middleman, then other middleman. No. Once the currency is converted, boom, done. Directly, people should get it on their phone. They should like, okay, I got it. And that way you can verify the identity also, who is getting it, how much they are getting it. If something is a bit more complex, let's say contractors, hey, we want it. You're like, okay, you want petrol, right? That's the biggest, most expensive consumption. No problem. Go to a petrol pump and we're gonna directly fund it. So petrol pump gives us the bill, 80 liters, 80 liters. We just directly fund it. We know how much was spent. So that is a very good tool to remove middleman, and you will be shocked how much money is destroyed in middleman. So that is one tool that technology allows us. Another aspect is we have to prioritize non-monetary aid first, meaning our first money. No. Like in case of India, what does India has? People. What is the benefit of that? We have very large core of people who are trained in disaster relief, specifically branch of Indian Army who is trained ruthlessly to make sure that they can manage it. And India does, again, super large physical surface area and ludicrously large amount of people. We generally have disaster one way or the other. So we do have very good amount of training in that regard. So we sent something like that. In Turkey. When bad things happened, we sent a lot of trained soldiers to take care of the situation. And you were like, is that wasteful or successful? Actually, shut up, take money. That's how beneficial it is to the country who's sending it. Why? First, no corruption issue. Second, soldiers for disaster relief is a known asset. Like every country has a soldier corps, and they inside that soldier corps they have the training. It's like, how can you do disaster relief? Be it China, be it America, be it whatever. And actually having real life training where your military doctors are not just like, okay, I'm doing a mock training. No, I'm actually helping someone who is trapped in an earthquake. I'm actually helping healing the wounded. All of that is short up take money. There is no training that can give you that real world experience. And again, everything else also, like how do you manage the logistics of it? How do you ship that many people? How do you make sure the time is not wasted? It's like, waiting from one to another and all that. All of that directly translates into your team becoming far more effective when something closer to home happens. So flat out, it's shut up, take money. That's the best tool we can deploy, and it directly helps people. And this is not a stage photo op. This happens every time Indian soldiers goes there and help people out, because again, you will be really happy when somebody is actually helping you, not some government discussion and all that. No, you are seeing a person, you are seeing a flag, you're like, me good, me happy. So fundamentally, that is first line of defense. That really helps a lot. Another is food and consumable items, but we do have to put some effort into that so it does not open a black market. Ask Pakistan. So it does have to be like certain safeguard has to be built in order to make sure that it cannot be sold and create an open black market. But again, if you have direct funding and all that, it can be managed very easily, effectively, and with high transparency. So things can be done. The first, things that cannot be corrupted, soldiers. Second, consumable resources. Third would be monetary, and you will make sure, damn sure, that money is directly going to the people who need it. So there are solutions. If we really put our mind to it, we can be like, okay, we are directly giving, and let's say it still does not solve the problem. Then you pull our back. It's like, hey, we tried it, directly made sure corruption does not 8 to 90% of it, and if still not solving the problem, then you create the secondary system where it's like, okay, now we have to prepare for the worst case scenario. We did try to help, it did not work. It's like, sometimes you have to cut your losses. So this was my presentation on basically this foreign aid concept. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst a friend. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do like to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.